Cincinnati. But across the Delaware River in New Jersey, something very interesting was going on. There was a fellow who was running for the Senate against a guy by the name of Bill Bradley, who was this basketball superstar. He played for the Knicks. And he was considered a shoo-in in a heavily Democrat blue state like New Jersey against somebody who was not very well known by the name of Jeffrey Bell. And Jeffrey Bell was one of the early supporters of tax cuts, pro-life, advancing cultural issues, economic capitalism, and so forth. And he almost won. And the whole nation looked at that. And Jeff Bell is running again in a race that's being ignored by the national media, and I dare say by a lot of the national Republican organizations. He's running for the Senate again against Cory Booker. Cory Booker, who was not an effective mayor of Newark, quite the contrary, and who says some really stupid and bizarre things, but again, he is loved in Washington. He's loved by the Democratic establishment. But Jeffrey Bell is the real deal. And so it's an honor to have my friend Jeffrey Bell on the program. Jeff, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Mark, and it's an honor to be in your program. And if you were suggesting that I had even the tiniest role in shaping your own life view, I'd be honored to believe that.
Oh, it's quite true. It's quite true. And I remember you running across, and you're running now. Tell us about this race in New Jersey, you versus Booker.
It's an odd race because I got in after a long absence from New Jersey politics because I was just so disgusted with Washington, with their inability to take on issues, to provide an alternative to what Obama was doing. And the thing that particularly stood out was their unwillingness to take on one of the most powerful institutions in Washington, which is the Federal Reserve, and their disastrous zero interest rate policy that has been going on for nearly 6 years. I tried to get a lot of members of Congress to take this issue on. A couple came close, but ultimately nobody wanted to do it. The Fed is printing money to finance these huge deficits that we're taking on, and members of Congress know it, and they're afraid of the 600-pound gorilla.
And Jeff Bell, what that does is it keeps encouraging Congress to spend in the most irresponsible ways, Democrats and Republicans, and the Fed is having trouble figuring out how to get out of the quagmire that it created, isn't it?
Mark, they don't have the slightest idea. Almost anything they do to restore normality has tremendous risks. If they let interest rates, short-term interest rates, drift up to their natural market-set level, the deficit suddenly grows by $800 billion a year, and Congress starts to be held much more accountable than they are now. If they do that, also, the party on Wall Street could come to a swift end because with returns so low on debt, the stock market is artificially high, and you can have a tremendous correction, maybe even another financial crisis. So I think it's one of these rare times when it's much easier to do the big thing that's right, which is return to a gold-backed dollar for the first time in 43 years, than it is to think about all the incremental options.
Are you getting support from the Republican establishment in Washington?
None whatever. I'm on their Z list. My campaign manager, after I won the primary in June, called the Senate Campaign Committee just to meet with them. We knew we weren't high on their list, but they wouldn't even return his calls. And we've never had any direct conversations with anyone at the Senate Campaign Committee.
So you're telling me the National Republican Senatorial Committee doesn't even want to talk to you?
Exactly. They made it public that they thought this race was hopeless, but they never had the courtesy to tell us that to our face. And yet, I've never been as far behind in the polls as I was against Bill Bradley, and at that time, I was fully supported by the Senate Campaign Committee. They were willing to support conservatives, moderates, liberals at that time. The party had a lot more ideological diversity, and yet here there seems to be a prejudice against anybody who's running as an unapologetic conservative, a Reaganite, if you will. We just haven't gotten the time of day from them, even though I've been much closer in the polls to Cory Booker than I was to Bill Bradley initially.
And how does that look right now? I mean, I'm sure there's some distance, but how does it look?
It's probably in the low double digits. Some of the pollsters who are invested in the idea that I had no chance are trying to say that all the voters are decided, or all but 6 or 7%. That doesn't make any sense, because a month ago they were saying the race was kind of fluid and unformed. One poll had it like 43 to 32 or something like that, with most of a bulk of voters undecided. So they have different narratives that they put into play. They contradict each other, but they're basically trying to shut down the race. Fortunately, I think the Republican Party in New Jersey is unusually united. There's no temptation to go for Cory Booker among rank-and-file Republicans, and my opponents from the primary have gotten behind me in a very supportive way.
I'm glad to hear this, and I assume the governor's being helpful too?
Yes, he has been. In fact, this very evening he headlined a big fundraiser in Somerset County, right near his own home, and he'll be campaigning with me. He's had 2 fundraisers, one in Princeton and one in Somerset County, and he's going to be doing some personal campaigning with me. Also, he's attacked Senator Booker's avoiding of debates. Senator Booker was in negotiation for 3 different debates, and he's only going through with one, and that isn't going to be held until October 26th.
By the way, give Chris my best. Well, I haven't talked to him since he ran the first time for governor, but that's a whole other issue. Actually, you better stay out of that. Anyway,
I understand there are some tensions there, but I don't have any complaints about the way he's treated me since I became the nominee.
I'm very
united here, Mark.
Yeah, I'm pleased to hear that. Now, let me ask you this question, though. Have you talked to Mitch McConnell? Have you sought to speak to him at all?
No, I've just been completely frozen out. Early on, after I won the June 3rd primary, it became evident that they were not going to meet with us. They were not going to give us the time of day. They were going to poo-poo our chances whenever they were on the record. They just, for whatever combination of reasons, and to this day I'm not sure why they never even wanted to hear our story, they made it very clear they didn't want anything to do with this campaign.
Listen, you're one of the intellectual heavyweights behind what became the Reagan Revolution, one of the conservative stalwarts. I mean, you helped advance the cause by your own race in New Jersey way back when, which is why I bring it up now. Have you ever seen anything like this, where the Republican establishment in Washington digs in and then they decide who's worth supporting, who's not? It's like they're control freaks. They want to centralize everything.
And they seem to want cookie-cutter candidates, people who have a certain script, certain talking points, and never deviate from them. I'm not that way. I never thought I'd be running for the Senate again a year ago, as recently as a year ago. I ran because I was frustrated that everybody in Washington seemed to defer to the establishment, even people who were nominally very conservative. I just could not get to talk about this monetary problem. And the Fed is the single biggest problem in the economy. Steve Forbes is a rare exception. He supported me, and I had him do a robocall in which Steve said, I'm for Jeff Bell in the primary, because I agree with him that we have to fix our money before we turn to the rest of our economic problems.
I want people to know who contribute to the National Republican Senatorial Committee. The Republican candidate in Oregon is about 20 points behind, and they're pouring money into that race. You're really, I'm told, about 12 points behind, and they're blowing you off, not one penny. How does that make you feel as an old Reaganite, seriously?
Well, I must admit I was somewhat shocked. I thought they would at least be polite, and they would at least give me a nominal PAC contribution of $5,000, which they give to almost everyone. But there's been nothing but hostility in Washington. I'm not sure exactly why, but fortunately in New Jersey, people have pulled behind the nominee, and they're helping to the extent they can.
What are the other 2 or 3 issues that you consider very important and that distinguish you from Cory Booker?
Cory Booker is completely yoked to Barack Obama and everything he's doing. He has never disagreed. He has never voted the other way. And I think what is destroying Barack Obama's popularity, even in a supposedly blue state like ours, in recent months, more than anything else, it's been the collapse of our foreign policy. People are just appalled. They see the world falling apart, and the president seems mainly to be a spectator. The other thing about Obama that I think has made him just as unpopular in New Jersey as he is nationally, which is a surprise in a state that he won by 18 points just 2 years ago, is the fact that he doesn't ever seem to learn from his mistakes or even from events. I mean, to say that the economy's doing well, but people don't know it, and then as your reason, when he's asked on 60 Minutes, the reason he gives is that people's wages haven't gone up. That's not a public relations problem, Mr. President. That's reality. Mm-hmm. That's our economy that's been underperforming, I think, largely due to the Fed sitting on the credit markets.
By the way, folks, if you want to help Jeff Bell, you go to bell2014.com. Bell2014.com. It's up on my Facebook and Twitter sites. Bell2014.com. He's got a shot at this. I mean, it's tough. It's an uphill battle, but it always is in a blue state, isn't it, Jeff?
It is, but you know what, Mark? I'm really enjoying it. The people of New Jersey were open to an out-of-the-box, a new idea, which was a 30% Kemp-Roth tax cut. And they responded so well when I defeated an incumbent liberal Republican senator in the primary in '78 that 3 years later, Reagan signed that bill into law as the Reagan tax cut. So voters, I found, Mark, are much more open to new ideas, to ideas that are out of the box than the elites are. Certainly the elites in Washington are not open to anything new right now.
Well, I hope my audience will get behind your effort, and you deserve it. You're running a noble campaign. You're doing it for all the right reasons. You're not a crony. You don't have all these Washington insider deals going on and so forth and so on. You're a studious, earnest conservative who's worried about the future of the country and wants to save the country. Jeff Bell, it's an honor. People, let's go to bell2014.com, bell2014.com, up on my Facebook and Twitter sites. Good luck and God bless you, my friend.
And God bless you, Mark. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, take care. What a great guy. Just a great guy. I mean, they're pouring money into Oregon. She's 20 points behind, and this guy's 12 points behind, and they blow him off completely. What it is the Washington establishment doesn't want conservatives to win. It's that simple. And he's right about cookie-cutter candidates. It's like they go on the computer, go on the graphic sites, they put them on all this money on security, several levels of security. And the hackers, many of them international, still get in. Because no one can stop all identity theft. Identity thieves are smart. They're experts at what they do. So everything about us, even our bank accounts, is connected and stored on some cloud. All it takes is one hack, one